Are you ready to move on for Spider-Verse, Chris?
Oh, yes, I am.
Alright, let's do this. Alright, so now we're entering the spoiler cast for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This huge warnings. This is spoiler cast. You haven't seen the film. Click this off. Check the film first, and then come back and listen to this full podcast of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in Andreas Pop Culture Talk. So now, Chris. So you and I saw it twice. I guess you have seen the first one back 5 years ago, and of course it's in Netflix. I don't know.
5 years is worth the wait.
Yes, yes, 5 years. Oh my God! First, it was supposed to come out in 2022 last year, and then they had to push it back to this year, particularly in June. But man, I think the wait was worth it, as you say. I think this is my personal favorite 2023 film of this year. And the still, and of course, in terms of the superhero films that we've gotten so far this year is number one for me at 2023 of this year, which is great. Yeah, this is great. I think it's better than the first one. The fact that well, really, okay. So
yes, it's miles ahead of the first one.
No, oh yeah. Oh, we can discuss that. That's very true. But yeah, I thought this. I mean, oh my God, this movie did everything right. What you love about the first Spider-Verse is still here, but in such a big, expansion of the Spider-Verse universe. Finally, finally getting into more Spider-Verse stuff, but in a more ambitious and very ambitious storytelling of not all stories are set in stone, which that's the whole thematic crunch of this film. And Miles realizing that he has to do his own thing. He's not every Spider-Man. He has to go his own path, which is great. And I think everything about this film exceeds what I love about the first film and does it better. What's your overall opinion on Spider-Verse? Across the Spider-Verse.
My overall opinion on Across the Spider-Verse was that the storytelling, the voice acting, the visuals, and just the character development was top-notch and off the charts. The only few things I'll say is that, I just couldn't understand why Miguel O Hara has such a weird personal vendetta against Miles. It's because, it's not his fault that, he got bitten by a spider. It's not his fault that, with, the multiverse is in the multiverse and the canon event was at risk of, causing catastrophic consequences. And Miguel is right. He is just a kid. He's a teenager that's trying to find himself and his place in society. And I can see in some ways you do kind of root for him because you understand you see his story, you understand his story, and that's why the directors wanted to really tap into that more, because in the early development of this particular character, the directors or producers even said that he was too much of an a-hole.
Yeah, it's very true.
And
yeah,
and I just really love how Miles stood up for himself. In that Miguel was explaining to him that being Spider-Man comes with sacrifice, and this canon event with your father dying, it's supposed to happen for you to become Spider-Man. And then Miles is having none of it. It's that's just so messed up what you guys are doing. So for the sake of keeping some algorithm and under control, we have to endure personal loss and tragedy and possibly risk millions of lives. That's really messed up. And so you can see perspectives, you could see Miguel's side of things. You can understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, you can also understand where Miles is coming from. So they're both like, I would say, like they're both like right in like their philosophy and their motives, in this situation with the canon event and the multiverse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I agree. Agree or disagree, I would say. Well, first up, I like how you brought up the Miguel, first, I say, he didn't have a problem, like, with Miles. Like, he was trying to control the situation that Miles didn't know about the canon yet. But the way he did it was not really soft, like, it wasn't subtle. So it was very aggressively. And honestly, using his friends, particularly Gwen and Peer B, was very like dick move of him to like get them on board this iteration of like keeping Miles in the Spider Society building. For that kind of event to happen to his dad, Miles' father. And then secondly, the reason that he does have another problem is more legit. I mean, because the second time around, I got this more into the second time was the fact that this Miles wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man, which we'll get into with the ending or the
talk about a plot twist.
Yeah. Speaking of the plot twist, do you you and I saw it the first time. I don't think we caught it right away, right? The first time, like, did you caught that twist in the first time?
No.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I didn't catch, that because I had to see it again on a YouTube short, that when Miles gets his Spidey sense, the I guess like the lines from his head, they were purple, but then after like a few seconds they turn into red and blue.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was kind of foreshadowing that the spider that bit Miles, wasn't supposed to be Earth 1610 Miles. It was supposed to be Earth 42 Miles.
Yes.
And another thing I caught too, the second time, was that, remember when Miles was escaping on that portal or whatever to try to get back home?
Yes.
It recognized the Earth 42 spider. It recognized his DNA from the Earth 42. Because, the spider that was from Earth 42. So that's why it sent him back to Earth 42. It didn't send him back to 1610.
Yeah. Yeah. So, another hint of the twist was the mom, Miguel's mom. If you didn't pay attention to her mom, like, her mom's eyes are brown in the 1610, but in Earth 42, she had green eyes. So that was another indication that she was different, and I caught that the second time when we saw it again last Sunday.
Wait, you're talking about her eyes?
Yeah, her eyes, where they draw her in the film, is always brown, and 42, she has green.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I think it was pretty obvious, but once she said, who's Spider-Man, that's when I started to figure, you know what? He may be in the wrong universe. And then again, he glitched, and that's when it was like, oh snap, he really is in the wrong universe. And then we saw Uncle Aaron.
Yes, as Gwen Stacy, when Gwen was saying he was in the wrong universe, in her thought bubble, it was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, continue. Sorry, I had to make sure Gwen.
And I liked how you saw more of an arc you saw more of the relationship between his parents and Miles.
Yes.
Miles and his parents. Miles obviously, and I'm glad he explained that he felt that if he had revealed his identity to them, they wouldn't love him the same, and of course, his parents didn't really, and of course, his parents didn't really listen. And I know Miles wasn't being too honest with him, but, when you're around your family, they don't listen to you. It's kind of hard to open up to them and to be honest with them because it seems
No,
like,
yeah, yeah, I agree. Well, and it's tough.
and Gwen wasn't, and Gwen, and listen, you gotta look at Gwen. Gwen wasn't being honest with him either. And it's
mm-hmm.
kind of sad that it is kind of sad that it left off when it ended. The last interaction between Miles and Gwen was like, goodbye, Gwen. So you could see how that kind of threw a wrench in their friendship. And I'm interested in seeing how their relationship plays out in this next one. Will Miles, eventually come around to forgive her, or, will Miles still be mad at her for that? You weren't honest with me, and you kept things from me, and I'm your best friend.
Yeah. Ooh, it's a good question. I hope like Miles, like I think it has to be like when like Polly does a kiss to him, and then that's where they probably maybe trust each other, maybe, or like build up their friendship to be more of a relationship in the third film, and because her dad survived, so like she can write this kind of event easily for making the Gwen relationship thing not be tragedy as previously known in the Spider-Man mythos in the universe, and that like Gwen and a Spider-Man can be together in a happy way, just like Mary J and Peter, as always. Yeah, I'm really curious where we left off to pick that up in the third one, because that's like you brought up so many good ones, Chris. The parents, and then Gwen and the relationship with Miles. Let's get into Gwen. And then let me pick it back on the parents. I think one of the reasons that I really like about this film and why I personally liked it more than the first one was seeing more Gwen in the film, and I think the film was pretty much a Gwen film because she had an arc throughout the film from the beginning, and like she had completed her arc. Her learning to accept new friendship and everyone as friends, and that's specifically the image towards that will get her building the three Spider-Man that we met to this movie that really like Miles and trust Gwen, joining the team with the OG Spider-Man team that we got from the previous film, with Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, and Spider-Penny. I am very excited to see her next logical arc in the next film. I thought Gwen Stacy, voiced by Hailee Steinfeld, was really awesome. She was the MVP for this film. Well, there's other MVPs in this film. I thought she was really great. I mean, I was not expecting when the first time we saw it, and the second time I joined in more was seeing her world for the first time and see it completely, But when you talk about Gwen and her art and her being her film in the sequel.
So I loved seeing more Gwen in the film, and I loved seeing more of her story. And I loved that she went through the same things that Miles went through, and not revealing, her identity because she felt like her father wouldn't love her the same. And early in the movie, you saw that even though the father was torn up, he was still ready to arrest her, even though obviously she didn't kill Peter Parker. But what would you expect? Hey, Dad, I'm Spider Girl, or I'm Spider Man. Knowing that you already have negative perceptions about the Spider-Man. Definitely you saw Gwen go through an identity crisis too, like finding her place, and I think that's why she...
The Gwen relation with Miles and, her arc throughout the film, from beginning to end. What do you thought about Gwen? and her.
I love seeing more of her, and highlighted it, how much, she was going through the same things that Miles was going through. And the stories are very similar. I don't know,
Yeah.
that both their dads are cops. They're both spider people, and they both, are trying to find their place in the world, and they both, have that fear that if they were to reveal their identity to their, parents or their loved ones, they wouldn't love them the same. And you even saw how the dad was still going to arrest her for Peter Parker's murder, even though she didn't kill him.
Yeah, which is shocking. I'm happy that you brought that up because I brought that up with Will. Will was shocked about the connection that I brought up about Miles and Stacy, Gwen and their parents being cops, and that's very it's very coincidence that the filmmakers had done that, which is funny, but maybe it was on purpose. Because now, because it's funny, because we're talking about the canon bit, right? How there's a certain thing that happens to a Spider-Man, right? It's not only Uncle Ben, but a Captain Stacy or someone is the other key thing that affects, Spider-Man, which is true. We saw that a little bit in a couple of the movies, with Andrew Garfield and some of the cartoons. And so it's kind of funny that they did that, but it's really cool to see that Gwen's dad quit, because of her, and I like that, and then speaking of that, her world was so fantastic. I could have done the whole movie just being her world, because it was so because the animation was almost like a water pencil, it was like a water paint. When we were seeing the emotions Gwen was going through, if it was sad, it was kind of blue. When it was you see love, it was kind of pinkish, some of the best fantastic animation I saw ever was really Gwen's universe, which was neat. And I don't know, I just saw everything about Gwen was great in this film. And yeah, I agree that I think her storyline was exactly the same what Miles was going through in this movie as well, but in different ways. Miles and Gwen's are similar but opposite, where she needs to accept that she needs to, actually form friendship, where Miles needs to form his new path, as Spider-Man, And so there's the difference, but there's similar ways between each other, And I really like that. So, but yeah, any thoughts about the animation around Gwen's universe?
Oh yeah, I just liked, the coloring around Gwen's universe. You saw a lot of blue and pink.
Yeah.
Which was so cool. And some people took that as to mean that Gwen is a trans person, and that may speak to the identity crisis that many trans people, go through. I mean, that's not what I took from it. I don't think that's what it was.
No.
That's what some people took from it.
No, I mean I totally get it. Why? Because it's just there's illusions of them supporting the trans community. Of course, there's I think a slogan, protect trans kids in Gwen's room, and then when we see again Gwen father and later in the film, he has a trans logo or the trans flag in his jacket. So they're I think they're more supporters of the community, and us, we support, for you and maybe in your family, you support the Black Lives Matter, right? You support that, that community, and something that's going on. Or me, I'm a Latino, I will support, the Latin community, and it's just kind of what the Stacy family is doing. They're supporting the trans community, So
Yeah, I don't think that's what I personally don't think that's what it was. To like, to send a message about like the LGBTQ community. I just think they just wanted. I just think it was just making a good film and moving forward with the story. I don't think there was any like social or political agenda to it. I
No.
just think the colors, really spoke to Gwen's story and just Gwen herself. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you're also right on that part. Just really a nice detail in the animation, either unintentionally or intentionally. So I agree on that part. But it's interesting they put that in that universe and Stacy, the Gwen's, apartment. It just adds a little detail of the character, who she is. And what she is about, which is great. I guess another thing that was kind of cool, another Easter egg I totally cut off was Yui. Yui Watanabe. That's from the PS game. If you play that, she becomes the Blade. She's actually in this universe. She's one of the partners that Stacy is talking to in the beginning. She's in that. If you play the game, she's in this movie as well. The police that helped Spider-Man throughout the first game. But yeah. But yeah. Speaking of the opening, I thought the opening of the CM fight with the Renaissance Vulture was really great and a great way to start the film again in this universe, and like seeing Miguel O Hara and Spider-Woman Jessica Drew in this scene was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how it's set up for Miles' showdown with the Spot, and I think, and honestly, I think that it could be possible. I don't think that Earth 42 Miles is going to stay a bad guy as this next one, because the fact that the Spider was actually supposed to fight him, I think that Spider still sensed some good in him, which is why it was supposed to bite him in the first place. And you see the Spot is clearly driven by revenge against Miles, and he was the cause of all that chaos going on across the Spider-Verse, not Miles. So I still don't understand why Miguel has such an animosity against Miles when it's not his fault at all.
Right. I don't know. I think the 42 Miles will be another antagonist that Miles have faced, because the way he acted towards the end of the film was very sinister, and I don't think there's going to be no redemption for the character. Maybe just like it's sort of like the average situation that we had in the last movie, where maybe he will probably get accidentally killed and maybe aspire. I think we know what's going to happen, because we got Aaron in 42, right? Maybe we're going to do is like a very accidental thing, just like how our version of Miles that we're following is also accidental. I think the version of Aaron from 42 will be the Spider-Man for that. Like, the death of Miles, his version of Miles, will be the trigger for him to become a Spider-Man, right? Because Miles of 42 became the flower. And I think that could happen, and maybe how it gets Spider-Man powers is really something else, but I think it'd be kind of funny to flip that and see Aaron becoming a Spider-Man. That'd be kind of cool to see, So that could happen, that I could see maybe this version of Miles from 42, the Flower, right? To maybe be the bad guy, and then you realize what he's done, and maybe he will be accidentally killed, and that maybe could inspire his version of his Uncle Aaron to become a Spider-Man. What do you think?
surprised to see the cameo with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and I'm wondering, could we see Tom Holland and Miles Morales, share a screen at some point?
Yeah, that's true. But what you thought? Well, you brought up Easter eggs, but what you thought about the theory I did with the evil Miles, the sinister Myers? Like what I say, like Uncle Aaron becoming maybe the Spider-Man for that universe for 42. Earth 42. Or you don't see that happening.
No, I really don't see that happening.
Okay.
Did you notice? I wonder if you noticed. Did you notice that when Miles was talking to Earth 42, Aaron, and he was talking about how Uncle Aaron, did a lot of bad things, but he wanted to be a good guy. Uncle Aaron's face and eyes, he lifted up his face and eyes when Miles said that. Did you notice that at all?
Yeah, I did. I think that it is like it could be very true still for that version, and that maybe he's just trying to ignore the words from that version of Miles, because that's his other Miles.
Yeah, and another reason why I don't see Aaron being that Spider-Man in that universe is because there is no Spider-Man. There is no Spider-Man to stop them. And if you notice, there was Easter eggs of the Sinister Six in that universe.
Yes.
And it gave, and that Earth 42 really gave that, hopeless, everything and everybody is corrupt, feel. So I don't see Aaron being a Spider-Man in that universe when it's just so dark and gloomy and hopeless.
Yeah.
Because with Spider-Man, even though like they're still bad, there's a lot of hope that remains intact. But in this universe, there's no hope at all.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. I'm kind of curious how our version of Miles will interact with this universe if we spent a lot more time with Earth 42, I'm kind of curious if we're going to do that in the next film. Because I wish we can spend more time on Earth 42, like what happened to it, how did Miles, we know Miles became the power because the father, Jefferson, died probably in the line of duty. And so I'm kind of curious what happened to this Earth 42, So hopefully we expand upon that in the next film,
Yeah, I think it will, because I think, the next film will just, pretty much wrap everything up.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that, and I also think that, I was thinking that since Miles, Earth 1610 Miles is an anomaly, it could be possible that the rules of, like, the canon event don't apply to him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like every Miles doesn't apply to the canon events. That's very true, because, the way he, what happened to his universe hasn't been affected, really, and then same thing with Earth 42. So I'm kind of curious if we will address that.
And also, remember when Gwen asked Miguel, if the canon breaks or whatever, do you even know what happens? And Miguel just said, "Oh, you want to find out?" And that made me think, did Miguel, tell Miles everything? Because it could be possible that maybe he actually doesn't know what could happen. If, Miles, doesn't go through with the canon, and because he's an anomaly, the rules don't apply to, since the rules don't apply to him, it could be possible that he could actually break this canon event and it won't cause anything catastrophic.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I do wonder that. There's some distrust between, us, the readers, to Miguel. We don't know the full extent of what happened to the world that he was in, the other version of Miguel O Hara, like what happened to it. So, because despite that, we saw the PRB was helping him to get everyone out from that universe, from whatever the canon was for that universe, or that parallel world. So I'm kind of curious, like the full extent that does Miguel understand the canon event and like what happened to it, you know? So I'm kind of curious if we're gonna address that in the next film. But yeah. I mean, I guess the next thing we should discuss is Miles. I thought Miles was great in this film. I mean, you know, besides Gwen, I think Miles was really awesome in this movie. I think, you know, bringing up again the parents. I thought it was really great to spend more time with the parents, especially with the mom. Get into the more like the, you know, one of the things I like about this film was the superhero identity crisis that Miles was going through. How the balance is like between a normal kid and Spider-Man, and it was full on like great in this film. Like they really handled that, just like Spider-Man 2, or you know, the Tobey Maguire films and the Andrew Garfield film, in that way. And I thought it was really handled. I like everything what they did with Miles here. I'm excited where we'll take him in the next film. No?
Yeah, and I like how at the end when Miles was you know, held captive at Earth 42, when he saw his Earth 42 variant, you know, you saw his face, and it was just full of disappointment. And then when Earth 42 Miles put that Prowler glove on the side of that heavy bag, he was scared. But then at the last scene, when he was getting ready when he put his finger on the chain to use his venom, you saw that he immediately changed his face and that he wasn't afraid anymore. So I love how Miles, you know, made 3 different facial expressions at once, and I really think that goes to show his maturity and his character development. And you know, you saw he was still going through an identity crisis. You know, still hesitating to reveal, you know, his identity to his parents. Eventually, he did it to the Earth 42 mom, but you know, I think eventually he'll reveal his identity in the last one, probably at the last scene in the climax of the next film.
Maybe. That's a good point. I like what I like about this movie is that Miles becoming more mature. You saw how, like, we also saw that with the train sequence where he was trying to distract all the Spider-Mans to get out from the spider building so that he can, like, go back to his dimension, which it ended up being Earth 42 instead. Like, that was a good move from Miles to trick everyone, including Miguel O Hara, to get away from the Spider Society headquarters. And yeah, and then same thing with you know, with the saving of the India Spider-Man, Captain Stacy version, and how he saved the kid in that. Like, you know, he really is becoming a Spider-Man in a very mature way. So I thought that ending, as you brought up, Chris, towards the end, really showcased that he's really grown as an adult, you know? And the facial expression, as you say, Chris, is really fantastic. I love that animation. Like, it almost felt like we were in a live action film, you know? So, and, you know, I guess, you know, get into the other Spider-Man. Who's your favorite Spider-Man? The new Spider-Mans that we got here, you know, is it Indiana Spider-Man, Spider-Punk, Spider-Man 2099, or Spider-Woman?
Spider-Punk, that's my guy. Because he was kind of like an F the system kind of guy, and
yes,
I just like how, you know, I feel like he stood up for Miles, you know, and I think,
yeah,
you know, he was basically telling Miles, like, yeah, like, think for yourself, like, don't let, you know, people tell you, you know, like, people control you. I mean, he did, like, say that directly, but I feel like that's the kind of vibe he was giving. And he even's like, yeah, after, you know, Miles, you know, was, you know, stood up for it, it was like, yo, I'm not accepting this canon event thing. Spider-Man was like, yep, I quit. And that shit, it just shows you that he wasn't down with what they were doing. And I love how when Gwen said we are supposed to be the good guys.
Yeah, I agree. My God, you're right. Spider-Punk was really great in this film. I mean, Daniel Kaluuya, great actor. So happy he's part of another modern universe, just like Arthur Isaac. The second time around, I didn't notice this, but it's funny that Spider-Punk was helping Miles how to use his powers. Particularly the Venom
Mm-hmm.
thing, and like how he used his palms. Like that was a cool detail to show how he was like really liking Miles and tried to help him hone in his fire abilities. And then the other thing was, I love how he's a British punk and like he actually doesn't like the establishment. That is very true, and I like that they went to that instead of just him being was the obvious one, the pre-established system, like he was into the system. But no, like I like that this version of Spider-Punk is against the establishment, which is great, and that's a running through of this film. How like it's not all like hunking down of the establishment, particularly the Spider Society. And so I thought that was really good to use Spider-Punk to reflect that. Like Miles needs to learn that that's not all good, be part of this establishment of society. And another thing I like about Spider-Punk was the animation. Like he really felt like a rock punk poster, come together. I really love his animation, particularly with the watch that he gave to Gwen towards the end. Like it actually was from his universe, and that was a really cool detail. And so it makes sense why he joined the team with Gwen towards the end, and everything about Spider-Punk was really great, And another, I guess my favorite has to be India Spider-Man. I thought he was great. I thought his universe was a great way to spend time in the universe after, spending time with Gwen. I thought that was another great sequence. I thought the actor that voiced him, who's from the Deadpool films, who played Ponty from Deadpool, he was really great choice to voice India Spider-Man, and I thought his animation there was great. I love the joke about the TT, the Thai T. That was so hilarious, seeing the Miles just not stopping the T, and it just spilled over. It's so funny. I thought everything about that sequence was really great. And so he's my favorite.
I like the Indian actor that played the Spider-Man from India. He was very funny, and he just made me laugh every scene he was in. I thought he was one of the comedic reliefs in his film, and I liked how Gwen dropped her just like her casual line. She kind of reminded me of Deadpool a little bit, without the cursing and the vulgarity. But I just love how even in serious situations she managed to drop, a funny line here and there.
Yeah, very true, very true. But yeah, I thought that was great. I did like. Speaking of second time around, that I really enjoyed this time was the virtual Spider-Man or Spider-Woman that we met in the Spider Society. I didn't cut this in the first time, but the second time she was part of the group towards the end. So it was really cool, and it makes sense because when
the virtual Spider-Woman. Oh yeah, I caught that the first time.
Yeah. Well, so you did, okay. So for me, I didn't. I didn't cut her in the first time. Towards the end, but now with the second time watching it with you again, I catch it, particularly because now it makes sense why we were looking on the face on her when Miles was hinting to his birth instead of hinting closer to his universe, but not 42. And it makes sense because she's like really like Miles as well.
Yeah, and I like how at the end it showed all those spider people going to rescue Miles because it showed where their loyalty lies.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, it makes sense, particularly with Peter B, which was good. Yeah. So, I guess we did get into Easter eggs. You brought up the Donner Glover flower cameo. I did not expect that.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either, and to see like a live action character in an animation film, that was just like one of the highlights of this film. And again, I'm sure you noticed the Easter eggs with the sinister sticks. You saw, and you heard them on the radio when they were at Earth 42. So I just wonder, are they going to play a role in this next film, or maybe they were just mentioned for the sake of showing how dark and gloomy Earth 42 is. And
I'm curious about that. I definitely want to see the Sister Six cartel.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm very curious because there's other villains that I want to see in this film, like particularly Mr. Negative, and Mysterio. Like it'd be kind of cool to see Mysterio in action in this animation, because we got the Vulture, the Italian Vulture in the beginning, so it'd be kind of cool to see either one of them to be like the big action sequence, Speaking of Easter eggs, I want to bring up the Commons Cold Authority logo that was brought up. I really like that. They did that in the first film, and that was like a thing that like in the 60s or beginning of the 50s that showed for every parent that it was a clean comic to read and it was approved from the community. And so I like that they're using that this is proved as it's almost like a meta commentary that this is approved as one of the best like movies to watch. I think that's so meta. And then another Easter egg that was kind of neat was the 60s Spider-Man popping up and during the escape from Miles was really neat. The Insomniac Spider-Man popping up. The PS4 Spider-Man. Between the Video Man characters. That was kind of cool. What else? Spider-Man Unlimited. There in the background was really great. The other Easter egg was kind of cool was the Josh Keaton Spectacular Spider-Man was really great. Spider-Cat was my favorite of the variants, so that was neat. So there was a lot of Easter eggs of Spider-Mans. Other Easter eggs that was also cool. I'm trying to figure out that was neat. I guess the big one for me was the Karan event. One of the Karan event for Captain Stacy dying was directly from the comic from Amazing Spider-Man issue 70 during towards the end of the 60s. So that was kind of neat that they put that there. So, was there other Easter eggs that you caught on, Chris? What you want to bring up?
Some, well, actually, some that I caught. I would say, again, was that when Miles had his Spidey sense, at first his sense it was purple and everything was purple and green, and then in seconds it turned red and blue, and I think that was that was foreshadowing, that plot twist we saw in the end of seeing, Earth 42 Miles variant. And definitely another Easter egg was in the end credits where for a second you see 1610 Miles with face to face with 42 Miles, foreshadowing in the next one, okay, they're definitely going to duke it out at some point. But I don't think it's going to stay that way. I do think that Earth 42 Miles will become an ally, I guess. I don't think I just can't see him staying as the bad guy, because since the spider was supposed to bite him, that means that spider sensed some good in him still.
Yeah, because we see a little bit of his spider sense in the light, where it was red and blue when we first introduced him as the flower. So, like, it could happen. For me, I don't think it could happen. I guess it depends where this flower will go. Because, the flower always ends up helping Spider-Man. Like, the PS4 Miles game. Like, the part there helped him out as well. So I'm kind of curious where we're gonna take this version as well, just like the last one that we dealt with, and Into the Spider Verse, first film. I guess the other one, you brought up the spider sense. That was a really cool detail of foreshadowing. I also want to bring up the foreshadowing of the spider, the 42 spider, when that bit Miles and Earth 116, 1610. I didn't notice this when I rewatched it 2 weeks ago to see the first time with you, that it did glitch. So that was a cool foreshadow that it wasn't from this universe. So that was really neat as well. That it was for sure that it wasn't the spider that did. It wasn't the. It was the wrong spider that bit Miles in that Earth.
Yeah. I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that either. And I know it had been a while since I watched, the first one, but dang, but after the second time I saw it, I thought about it. It's like, wow, they literally gave a hint on the first one.
Yeah,
It just never came to me until seeing it for the second time.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's very crazy to do that. And then the same thing with the spot. He's the guy from the bagel that got hit. So that was funny. Tying into the first one. I guess this is a good time to speak the villain, the spot. I thought the spot was a great villain. I like how we were building into.
He was funny.
Yeah, he was really funny. Jason Schwartzman, who voiced him, was really awesome choice. I thought he was really great. He really brought the character to life with the comedic moments and then the very terrifying moments. I thought his animation was really great, and yeah, I'm really excited for him to beat the main villain for this two-parter. Like he has my favorite when he like the running gag of him being the villain of the week was funny. So I thought that was really hilarious. So yeah, the spot was great, villain. I'm really excited to see the next part. What do you thought about the spot, Chris?
Yeah, he was just very funny, and clearly he's just driven by revenge and vengeance, and he's an egomaniac. I mean, you do feel sorry for him in
Yeah,
the sense that because of his accident, he lost everything, and trauma, it can do a lot of things to people. It can either make people stronger and better, or it could twist and pervert people and make people better. But he's doing a very terrible thing. Trying to take over the entire multiverse, and he's putting millions and millions of lives at risk. But of course, he's not going to see that because he's so blinded by his anger and hatred towards Miles. But
yeah,
other than that, he was very funny. And I like seeing that duality with villains. Like you see they're evil, but they bring some humor. So I like that kind of duality.
yeah. No. I agree. I totally 100% with you with that. I always want my villains to have the humor in the philosophy that makes sense with the motivation, which I think the spot really does have, which is good. Just like the previous villain with the Kingpin, which I thought he was also a great villain. Yeah, that's very true, and it was really shocking how they balance it. That's the one thing I want to bring up. Two was the tone of this film. They just like the first one. What I like about the Spider-Verse films is the tones. They know how to give you a really great time as a comic movie, very funny, and then the action, but also really getting good with the dramatic moments and the emotional arc that we're going through in such a meaningful way. And that's the thing I appreciate about this film, where like some DC or MC films, sometimes the comedy cuts too much of the drama. I thought Spider Verse does not have that fun. They know how to just balance those things very well. I appreciate. Okay. I guess I think maybe the time to good time to how you say wrap up Spider Verse. And let's get into some couple things. Do you have any nitpicks and negatives about the film? Um,
Um, I'll say just Miguel's weird vendetta against Mao. That was one of my
Okay.
that was definitely one of my nitpicks with it. And
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I was just kind of confused with Spider Woman. At first, she seemed hesitant when Gwen had told her, please, tell him that tell him that he's wrong. And then at the end of the film, looking for Miles, and then she's tracking Gwen, and I couldn't tell by her facial expression. So is she gonna try to help Gwen still, or is she still gonna, be Miguel's, right hand woman and try to find Miles and imprison him? So I just didn't know, where Spider Woman stands at this point.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a really good point about Spider Woman. I thought the actress Rae from
Issa Rae, yeah.
Issa Rae, thank you. From Insecure, from the HBO show, was really great voice for this character, and I thought everything around her turned to comedic purposes. I loved when she said she brought up Dark Garfield. That was my favorite joke, Dark Garfield. um, yeah, I agree. I think what they're trying to do is that she's sort of like she's probably in the long game for a while doing this multiverse hopping with Miguel maybe, and so she's probably in the same boat as him, but she's starting to kind of shake up. She's started having going through the pure beat fucker role. It's like she's becoming a mother, and so she probably needs to like realize that what Miguel doing is not really like rational, right? And professional. And so I think she will maybe turn and help the Spire team to defeat the Spot / Miguel, maybe, in the next film, you know? But it's still kind of weird how they handled it because we don't spend too much time with Spider Woman. And we didn't see her world or she's basically a mentor to Gwen, and stuff like that, So I do agree with that. Same thing, Miguel. I explained that Miguel, like the reason that Miguel does have some problems with Miles is because he's an anomaly. He wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man. So that's like a very legit reason. But the way he handles it, he's one of those archetype characters of being a tragic character because he tried to take over the other Miguel's universe and tried to have a happy life. And obviously, it didn't end up well. So you can understand where he's coming from, being this very dark and very rational Spider-Man version.
But like that's not Miles' fault, and I think he's just taking out his frustration on Miles.
Yeah, but that's the point of the story I think they're trying to convey. But we'll see how they're going to do him in Beyond the Spider-Verse. I think when he sees that the canon should be changed and it's not a tragic thing, he probably will help Miles to save his father. Maybe that's probably where we're going to go with him. Yeah. This big fake was funny. I don't know if we have this opinion on the cliffhanger because Will had a nitpick and there was like a lot of discussion about this. Was the ending, the cliffhanger? Do you like the cliffhanger of the film and the ending?
I thought it was fine. I mean, I was expecting a cliffhanger anyway, since I had already known about the third film, so I wasn't expecting the second one to wrap up any storylines. There was going to be 2 parts, so it was inevitable a cliffhanger was going to come, and I think it ended just nicely and set up really nicely of what's to come in the next one.
I'm with you. That was something that Will brought up. That was funny, but it makes sense. What I say in the previous podcast, not to reiterate too much of it, but like I thought that every arc that we got through this film was kind of close, particularly Gwen's arc. So it's just the Miles part. It's yet finished. So that's going to be finished in the next part. You know. Two, we know the movie, the third part is coming out. Like we got the title, it's coming out next year. Hopefully next year, if the writer's strike doesn't affect it, or whatever. So that's two things. So I'm not too worried about it. I thought this was the best cliffhangers since the Avengers Infinity War ending. So like this and Avengers Infinity War had two great cliffhangers, in my opinion. Because sometimes two-parters don't really have a good ending. Like Harry Potter.
One of the best since Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah. Wait, you don't like the ending?
No, I think this cliffhanger was a good ending, but but for me, it definitely does not top Infinity War.
Okay.
Well, I'll put it at number two, but Infinity War's cliffhanger ending miles above Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Well, I guess to just not to confuse it, I think these two are good cliffhangers, but each one is different. Like Infinity War, you felt more complete with the story, so and it makes sense with the ending they got there. I mean, here it's more. It's more like traditional cliffhanger, which is good, in a good way. So, but yeah, so that was another nitpick. I guess whether nitpick I'm trying to figure out. It's kind of funny. That what was let's bring up last things like funny things that was funny like Gunk, Miles' roommate. I love that he's not the person in the chair. That's kind of funny. I thought it's kind of funny they didn't do anything with him. He's just still there in the dorm rooms that him and Miles are sharing. And then another one was another Easter egg, and that was funny, was the peer from Gwen's universe was voiced by Jack Quaid. I think a lot of people were surprised here. Salute.
Thank you.
No problem. So Jack Quaid voicing Peter in Gwen's universe was a great choice. I thought he was great, and I didn't recognize him when he was talking. So that was a good casting. Just like Chris Pine from the last movie, another great choice for Peter. But yeah, another nitpick for me was not too much of Peter B. Despite me glad little for him, I still like Peter B as a character. I love Mary J, the baby, MJ, the baby. That was so funny. Just her singing loud and then just
Spider Baby.
Yeah, Spider Baby. Oh my god. I just love everything about the Spider Baby and Peter B. So it was really great to hear that Miles aspiring to become a father and want kids, which was great. So that was good. Okay. Anything else for you, Chris? You want to bring up for Spider-Verse? That we want to bring up to discuss?
Yes, I think the third one would be just as epic, and I'm interested in seeing how Gwen's and Miles' relationship plays out, and Miles and his parents' relationship plays out, and I think the story's going to center on whether the canon event can be changed, and definitely we'll see more of a presence from the Spot.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I'm very curious where we're going to wrap up the arcs and the characters in the next film, particularly the parents. I bet. I don't think Miles will probably reveal his secret. Like, that's my opinion. Like, I don't think Miles will reveal his secret at all to his parents in the next film. Like, he will realize that it's okay to reveal your secret to some people, but not all the people, because you want to keep them safe. Like sometimes Peter does reveal his identity to Mary J. or Ed sometimes, Ed May, but not all the time. Some versions. So I wonder if this version will do it or not. So, but yeah. But yeah. So, anything else? You think it's a good time to wrap wrap up this podcast?
Yeah, I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah, well, sorry for the technical difficulties of this podcast, but don't worry, you probably will see the editing magic from Andreas Pop Culture Guy. Chris, thank you so much for being patient and doing this podcast with me. This was a blast, and my ideas are actually up now.
Oh, please feel better, man, and
Yep.
this was fun, and I had fun, and just stay hydrated, drink a lot of water, have like hot and spicy foods, like help clear up your sinuses, and make sure you're breathing fresh air.
Well, at least it's not polluted anymore in the air since the Canadian fire happened last week. So, but yeah, thank you. I just, if anything else, the next thing we'll probably do is another, hopefully a new trailer comes out. But I think our next big thing will be the Flash. That will be our next discussion, when we get to see it,
I can't wait because I'll have a whole lot to say about that. You know how badly I've been waiting for this film. I was in developmental hell for 9 years and went through all these shifts, but finally, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, I know.
And you're going to see it on Friday. And I know you said you were going to see it on Friday because you're doing another podcast with Will, right?
This one, maybe. I don't want to guarantee that, but yeah, it will probably be in the MCU Bleeding Edge podcast. So.
Okay.
Yeah, if you check the Andreas Pop Culture guest spot, I list all the podcasts that I've been in. Will be there. So just to kind of read, I'm gonna pop up in the next DC animation review that was gonna be Superman Batman Apocalypse. That's based on the story of when Supergirl arrived in the new continuity during the mid 2000s. So check that out for Wednesday. That's gonna be released, and then Friday will be the Flash forecast for that podcast channel. And I probably will see you on Friday, the Flash. So I will text you. As you say for Chris on Sunday, that I'll text you and give you my own thoughts.
Okay. All right. Definitely. And I'll let you know my thoughts too.
Yes. And then if goes well, maybe the following week we'll see it. Well, we'll probably see it together again. We'll see it together next the following.
We'll see it together on next Sunday because this Sunday is Father's Day.
Yes.
My dad, he's not really going to do anything because the surgery, but
yeah.
Me and family are gonna just spend time with him.
Yeah, which is good. So, but that's good. I hope that Sunday will be fun. But yeah, so thank you, Chris, so much. I really appreciate you, buddy, for coming tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on this podcast, and I can't wait for our next one. And I'll be ready for when we see the Flash.
Yes, same here. So thank you everyone for listening to this podcast on various pop culture talk. Hopefully this podcast will be released this week, and then the two separate podcasts next week. But anyway, looking for this podcast for this week, probably Friday, maybe the latest, or Saturday. Anyway, thank you, Chris. Thank you everyone for listening to the podcast. See you guys soon. Bye.